Hi guys, I am John Carrick, author of Legacy of a Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox. Today we are looking at Conan the Barbarian 112, The Siege of the Bear God. But first we have the Ace of Cups, the giant whale, and that is a dragon in the sky, it looks like to me. But maybe he's underwater. Anyhow, that is the World Fantasy Tarot deck. Let's move on. Conan the Barbarian 112. Now, I don't have 110 or 111, but I really want to get them because this is an incredible story. This is adapted from another story by, let me look up exactly who did this because it's not a usual name. This is freely adapted from the novel Sons of the Bear God by Norval W. Page, who I've never heard of before. Yeah, that's his name, Norval W. Page. And I really want to read the last three because the fact that this is adapted from a novel has given Roy Thomas and John Buscema a chance to really make fun of or allow people like me to interpret them as making fun of the current tyrants of our society. And this would have been, even in the 70s, the only way you could do this. This was the way Tolkien had to do it. If you want to criticize the people who rule our world right now, you need to do it in either metaphor or song. Any direct criticism will, if it's heard, if it's registered, they will come after you. We've seen it over and over and over again. So this is hilarious. Conan comes into the Asgard. So this is the first I'm seeing of this. I didn't see the last two issues. Presumably neither of you guys, at least not in the last 2 days. Conan's walking into an Asgard camp and calling them out and saying, I've defeated the bear men that you were afraid of, these sons of heaven. You are no longer enslaved to them. Njord, come out. I, Conan of Samaria, command you. So he's walked into an Asgard camp, started threatening the Norsemen. And that's a little unusual, even for Conan. But we don't know what's happened over the last two issues. So Conan, he's about to explain it all to us. Conan has returned from a big fight where he took on these people who are supposedly bear men. And then there's also these grass devils, and the grass devils are some kind of scam put on by dwarves. And these guys know who the dwarves are, and they're demanding that Njord and every 10th man of the Aesir turn themselves over to be ritually sacrificed. So there's a lot going on in these first couple pages. And Conan is getting in Njord's face, and Njord says, I'm not going to take that from you or anyone. And Conan's like, yeah, but you'll take it from these little dwarves. You'll take it from them, just not from me. So they get into a fight. Conan's much stronger than Njord and overpowers him. And he's like, look, if you'll fight me, why won't you fight them? And that's a pretty simple solution. Now we have a couple pages of ads. Conan throws him away, yanks his pigtails. Njord's rubbing his head and agrees to work with Conan, and they'll figure out a way to do it. They'll figure out a way to beat these grass devils. Now they've also sorted out that Njord and his Aesir, they're beyond their own kingdom's borders. They're out exploring. Conan has also cut off these ears, which I guess in the tall grasses allow you to hear better. It's an ear amplification thing. And then there's also something that's been, some mist that I guess has a narcoleptic effect. And they've also been poisoned with their mead. They've been drugged. So the white men have been drugged by dwarves who have some fake gods that they're tormenting them with, and they're enslaving them, essentially is what's going on. And through these technologies, burning this grass, which will clear their minds, wearing these ears, which will allow them to hear better, and then they also have this mask technology that allows them to filter out some of the what? Oh, this is kind of cool. There's a new Titan Comics cover that is a lineup like this of Conan characters. That's kind of cool. Sorry, my arm's all in the light. That's better. Yeah, the Titan Comics one. Conan looks a little, it's like he's got lipstick on, but otherwise it's kind of cool to have him in a modern police lineup. So they've got all these technologies. Where's the mask? But he's telling them about burning the special grass will clear their heads. These are the dwarves running everything. These are a stand-in for the modern small hats. Now, I don't know if Norval W. Page did this deliberately, but that's how I'm choosing to interpret it. And I know that when the Image guys launched their books, they wrote a lot of the business people who were giving them difficulties as stand-ins into their story in place of villains and whatnot, and plot difficulties. So these guys are about to be ambushed by Njord and Conan, and these guys have their own, how do you phrase this? This guy's named Ahsoka, which is Aosoka, which is also interesting. If you guys know anything about Indian history, King Ahsoka was the first man to unify India, and he had to do it by killing all the men. And when he finally finished, I think Arjuna was one of the last ones. It was King Ahsoka who had to do this. But once he pacified the last of the rebels, his attendees, his subordinates were like, "Why aren't you happy? We've won. Why aren't you happy?" And he had to explain to them that you guys are all sycophants, and we've just killed the last men. You're not men. You're worshipers of authority. And you have to recognize the difference between a genuine rebel and people who are just sycophants to authority. At least a third of the people are sycophants to authority. At least. Regardless, the only way to get a sycophant doesn't care who they serve. A sycophant will serve a good man or a bad man. The only way to get the third of the good men, if a third of the men are good, a third of the men are indifferent, and a third of the men are worthless. You don't want the worthless. You need the indifferent. You can buy the indifferent. You can bribe the indifferent. You can threaten the indifferent. They'll always work for authority. They just love authority. But the only way to get good people of real value on your side is to offer them something worthwhile and I want to say creatively and spiritually healthy, I suppose is a good way to describe it. Regardless, Njord and Conan, I don't know, they don't show you Conan for a couple pages, but they attack dressed in bear skins. The dwarves believe that they are really bears who walk like men and flee. And the first one who runs into this king's chamber and tells him that bears who walk like men are attacking gets stabbed to death by this king as a liar. This is why this is so much like the left. This is why, because they're the incompetent and the corrupt who only worship authority and don't recognize the difference between good and bad. Don't recognize the difference between right and wrong. Don't care about helping other people. A lot of this guy's servants are saying, what about the people of the city? What about the people of the city? And this king says, who cares about the people of the city? You have to protect me. I am your king. Meanwhile, the people have no defenses because they're dwarves, because they're also city folk. They're not soldiers. They're not a mercenary army. And then the bears who walk like men light the short grasses on fire, so the smoke prevents the archers from killing them. There's a few things going on here. There's several things going on here. It's obvious this was adapted from a novel. The comic book stories never have this many moving parts that have this many, how do I say this, linchpin plot developments. There are a number of linchpin plot developments. If the king wasn't a tyrant and didn't murder everyone who told him bad news, someone would protect him. But because he's a tyrant and because he behaves the way he does, everything unfolds exactly. This works. This completely works. These archers are trying to kill the bears who walk like men, but they're terrified of them, etc., etc. Couple pages of ads. Rom again. Mighty Thor. Some letters pages. I never read the letters pages in comics. I've said that I don't want to review superhero comics here, but I did read a lot of them. I just don't want to review them here. So here, this guy, he has a weird name, and his sister, his name is Tossa, but his name is like Tumandi or something like that. This guy, this full-grown man who's not a dwarf, who's opening the gates for the Bearmen with Aesir and Conan, is named Tanamund. Tanamund? I don't know how you would say that. I think they just throw a bunch of consonants together sometimes. I swear to God. Tanamund and his sister Tossa are servants of the dwarf people, full-grown human servants. They are now. I don't know how he goes from here. So what happens is he lets them into the city. They loot the city. Conan and Njord decide to go to the throne room, where Tanamund and his sister Tossa have slain the king. They've cut his throat. Tossa says she's so happy Conan's here. She wants to be his woman. Conan's thinking, I could rule over this city. We could drive the dwarves out, and this would be a great place. I could be king here. So for the next few pages, Conan has a plan. However, they decide that they can't just set up right in the throne room, and they need to pursue. This guy is another little schemer, and it's interesting that he's wearing the coat of many colors, this striped sort of Hebrew vestment. He has stolen the ruby off the fat dwarf's head and swallowed it. And Conan says that they need to chase down the rest of the dwarves and get rid of them, or they'll come back. They'll, be problems later, which is also really interesting. And now they've seen that they've paddled out to sea. If you guys know anything about the Sea Peoples, it's generally agreed that the Sea Peoples were a group of Middle Eastern pirates, probably small hats. Pompey ran them out of he utterly annihilated them in the Mediterranean when he was young, while he and Caesar were still both young. As a young general, that was what made Pompey famous. Njord and Conan ride back, and the archers open fire at them. This guy, the little schemer, right, comes running out to Conan to tell him that the archers are going to open fire on you. And Conan's like, why would the Aesir fire on Aesir? You're out of your mind. But what has happened is lots of moving parts in this one. Not written by comic book writers, written by novelists. And it's apparent. He dodges all the arrows to explain to Conan that these two are not brother and sister, but husband and wife. And they never had any intention of letting you become king. They have taken the city. It is now theirs. Tossa takes this moment, these 3 panels, to stab Tutmond. I've already forgot. Thurmond. Stab him in the back with her dagger. She doesn't kill him, but he is dead. He's mortally wounded. So he takes her with him over the wall. Conan wants nothing to do with this place now, agrees to take the little schemer with him, and bails. Now, if this is not a metaphor for Jacob versus Esau and the Tower of Babel, which is what we're facing right now, I don't know what is. Scheming little dwarves have no souls. The Devil in the Family is next. I don't know which one I've got next. One. Next, we have 124, so 12 issues. These 2 covers are kind of similar, aren't they? All right. Hey guys, I am John Carrick, author of Legacy of a Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox. 2 of the best novels you've never read. And I know they're awesome because I have been watching and reading and absorbing, consuming fiction my entire life. And I have not come across an adventure as good as mine. I've read some stuff that's close. Les Miserables, Don Quixote, Lord of the Rings, The Silmarillion. But I do love mine the most. Maybe that's because I'm a narcissist. Maybe it's because I did a really good job. I guess time will tell. So we were looking at Conan 112 and the Great Whale. But today's conflicted card, number 2 of hearts, is Pablo, the son of a Mexican drug lord, is ambitious and power hungry, and he wants to go about establishing a power base at the end of the world. How do you do it? What would you recommend to go about doing that? Drugs is not the way, but the way that his father did it is. Pablo Escobar bought everyone's home in all the villages around him and gave them to them. Didn't charge rent. He owned their homes and they all lived there for free. That's how you take over at the end of the world. You have to provide services. If you have a group of people that you can, and here's ultimately what it's about. It's about the economic management of labor. I believe that at the end of the world, it's about the economic management of labor and getting people to volunteer and have, like, for a long time, there's going to be not enough to go around, right? So, you know, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that, especially in a big city? You kind of can't. It's just going to happen. I don't think we're going to get that. I think because we have Trump and the adults are back in charge, I think this summer is going to be magnificent. I think this summer is going to be great. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to like starting new businesses, you know, contributing to the world, making the world a better place, not making the world a worse place. I don't know that, you know, the kind of resources a drug lord would have to make the world a better place are essentially arable land. If he has access to arable land and can determine what kind of crops should be planted and can give the people bread and can, more importantly, can do a cattle ranch and give the people meat. The guy who gives people sandwiches at the end of the world, he's going to be the guy in charge. Water and sandwiches. So, in the meantime, we have a comic book for you in the description. Ashley Fox Ninja Babysitter number 6, The Last Valkyrie, where Ashley rescues a baby from being satanically sacrificed and gets promoted to the angel corps of Valkyrie, working for the Allfather. That's a pretty good comic, so check it out if you want. I hope you guys are having a great day. I hope you're working on something you love. I hope you're working with your friends on something you love. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.